lucky today to have the filmmakers of Hive. I enjoyed watching this movie so very much. I thought it was bold, beautiful. I loved the themes of the natural world, free will, choice, sisters, mothers, and daughters. So we're going to dig right in and jump in and talk about this beautiful film. I'd like to start out by talking with Eylem, who is the director and writer, right? Is that correct?
Yes, hello. Yes. I'm the screenwriter and director of Hive.
So I wanted to, before we talk about like the filmmaking of the film, let's talk about the genesis. How did this project come about? What inspired you to tell a tale about, you know, a beekeeper, essentially, and one that has this, you know, that's in this situation of choice and free will and reconnecting to her past that will bring her to her future, I guess you can say.
Mm-hmm. Hive is based on a true story, actually. I've been making documentaries for over 20 years, and I've been directing and presenting a documentary series about urban farmers, filming all over Turkey, featuring characters, urban people like us, you know, teachers, artists, people who work at the bank, going back to nature. With the utopia of, with the dream of creating an utopia in the nature, farming, milking cows, you know, planting trees, hoping to find peace. So I've been filming these people, and I saw how they struggled, you know, thinking how intelligent they are, how they can control everything, how they are ambitious, and somehow they have these capitalist notions of taking control of nature. They failed, you know, most of them had failures, and they were beautiful failures that they took lessons from. And I was really intrigued by this people returning and finding a new identity. And I came across with this woman at the border of Georgia on top of the mountain. She was a female beekeeper. She was one of those people who returned and dedicated herself to bees. And she was in love with the bees, right? She was talking with each one of them. And yet she had to really struggle with the wilderness. She had to struggle with the nature, the climate, and also bears, because the bears were frequent visitors of these bees. So she told me many stories, and she was my main source of inspiration. And the fact that she came across with a bear and she had to make a choice really intrigued me. I mean, this very strong woman, very fearless woman, who tried to protect her hives, tried to protect her bees. That was, I mean, the instant I heard her story, I said, I have to make a film about this. And then I moved on from there.
And, you know, speaking of, you know, nature and the elements and weather, I want to start talking. I thought the opening sequence was just gorgeous. We're in the fog, we're driving up. As the viewer, we don't quite know where we are. And as the fog kind of melts away, you see that you literally see a man that is a shepherd. He's shepherding these goats. And they clear a path, and then you see our main character in a car. And you do feel like now she's kind of crossing over into this other world, which is this world of I guess you could say the Caucasian mountains, a different culture, like a rural culture, a culture that is tied to nature and is close to nature and is codependent. And so I thought that the cinematography too was gorgeous. I really felt the weather. So what I want to know, I'm curious, that opening sequence, was that dry ice? Was that really part of the weather? How did you capture that?
Wow. Kiki, thank you so much for this question, because that opening sequence was so important for me to shoot it this way, that I was able to shoot it. I'm so grateful that I was able to shoot it that way. The reason that that opening sequence is there is that opening sequence was the same for, I mean, it took me 2 years on and off to write script, and that scene was always there. And there was this woman driving in the middle of nowhere, literally entering a thick cloud, literally losing all her vision and, you know, moving within a cloud, because it's almost 3,000 meters and you are in a cloud. And suddenly the herd comes in from the cloud. This is exactly what I experienced, because I visited the region for several times looking for this the house that I dreamt of, looking for the location that I dreamt of, looking for the apiary, the beehive, bee yard that I dreamt of. So I was traveling in the region, and I went to this specific village. We had to climb and climb, and it had all these U-turns, and it was very dangerous to travel in this fog. And all of a sudden we are in this thick cloud, and all of a sudden within the cloud those goats approach, like this big, first of all there was this shepherd dog, this huge head of the shepherd dog just approaching towards us, and then the goats entering, and they were so dreamy looking, and they were staring in my eyes that instantly I felt that this has to be the opening scene, because it really felt like a passage to this other realm. But as well, it also felt this is really meeting with the other. I really felt that the goat was looking right into me and saying something to me. So I really wanted this to happen, which I experienced. But the fog, you cannot, you know, find the fog. But but that area, you know, very often there is that fog. It's actually cloud sea, kind of. They call it a cloud sea. There's a cloud sea frequently. And it took us 1 day to film that scene, but I'm glad. I mean, if you describe it the way you are, I'm glad.
Yeah, it did feel like there was a veil between the world she was leaving and the world that she was entering into, this other world. There was definitely a passage. And so, you know, I want to get into, you know, talking about the locations you shot in the Caucasian mountains. Like you said, it's 3,000 feet elevated. You also were dealing, as we were, you know, I was thinking that adage that I mentioned, that especially for actresses, they tell you, or actors, doesn't matter, not to act with children or dogs, because they will upstage you, and it's just a whole nother level of difficulty. But you upped the ante, and you had real bears, and you also shot with real bees. So, and you also had a child, and you also had a dog, and you also had some goats. So,
and bees.
And yeah, of course, the bees. And so I want to get into how long, we'll talk a little bit about the shoot itself. How long did you shoot for? And then I want to get into talking about the cinematography a bit, because I think that really evoked the nature, and then we'll get into the bees and the bears. But the bees, how did, you know, they were such an integral part, and I thought the way it was shot, I really learned so much about beekeeping, and I learned so much about this lifestyle of the bees choose you, and this kind of symbiotic relationship, and the idea of choice that runs through this whole movie, like you said. So let's talk, how many days did you shoot? How long were the days? And let's talk a little bit about how you handled the bears and the bees, and then we'll segue into acting.
Well, it took me 24, we did 24 days of shooting, almost a month. But we spent a lot of time in the area, scouting locations and spending time with the people, local people. I mean, I spend a lot of time, and with my core crew, a smaller crew, with my, you know, AD. I traveled there several times. So for months I was in the region working with the beekeepers. I actually assisted the beekeepers because
Oh yeah.
I had to learn beekeeping myself in order to make a film about beekeeping, and it was scary for me as well. I had to get stung several times. My actors had to get stung several times, but I had to learn to beat my fear and put my hand into the hive and touch the bees. Burcu also worked. Burcu had, remember in one scene the
Right.
Ahmet has all the bees in her hand. She did that too. We all did it. We had to communicate and connect and be friends with the bees to be able to make a film about them, to tell their story. Yes, when people read the script, they were like, this is a great story, but how are you going to shoot it? How are you going to shoot with the bear and bees
Right.
and all this, and nature? The nature has all these uncertainties. I think I was lucky in a way. I think I got help from Mother Nature. I always believe in this because a lot of things would have gone wrong. Working with real bees and real bears was really a challenge. I mean, we filmed in a bee shelter. They are wild bees in nature. It's not a zoo. It's a shelter for bears, and they are wild bears. And I mean, we had some risky scenes. But the bees, the biggest challenge is my lead actress, Mariam. Her biggest fear is bees. I mean, her biggest fear is bees. And that's why I added that quality to the actress, to the character, because I was quite, I thought this should be her challenge, to learn to overcome her fears. So she was, so it was a bit challenging with her because she always had to wear the costume, the beekeeper costume, and sometimes the bees would be a little anxious and angry because they are very sensitive creatures, and the way they work is through vibration, and you have to be very quiet. The set was always very quiet. Like, we didn't want people to talk unnecessarily. It was like a retreat. It was like we were in a retreat to be able to calm down the bees and to be able to get their permission, because we're in their habitat filming, and so we don't want to be like invaders. So I was lucky because my whole crew really understood what we are trying to do. We are telling a story about Mother Nature, so we have to be respectful to Mother Nature. We try to be as consistent as possible, and I mean, since everything went well, I guess we got help from Mother Nature.
And so I want to talk to, since we talked about the casting process. You said you built the lead actress's fear into the character's fear. So let's talk about how you as a director went about filling out the cast, because I thought the cast was it was a really beautifully placed. I really love the relationships, and then we'll talk about the acting process with Burcu and so let's talk a little bit about your casting.
Well, for example, the Ahmet character, I had a great actor in mind in Turkey, and I worked for him for 1 year. I mean, I don't have a large cast, right? I have like 4 main people. Mariam, the lead actress, is the one who is in almost every scene, in almost every frame. So that's a film where we follow the character in each moment. So the Ahmet character, her assistant, I was working with him for 1 year. He read many versions of the script, and he was a great actor. But just a few weeks before we started, something happened. Something was changed in his life, and he couldn't act, and he couldn't come, and that was a big crisis because he was a very important character for me. And so
ön çalışmalardan.
So we had to look for a new one, but luckily Hakan came, and a lot of people say he's like the beekeeper in the Anglo-Post film. He's like a really local guy, and I mean, since it's my first film, I didn't have a lot of experience working with actors, right? So I think it was a good choice to work with really talented, really professional, really experienced actors, really good actors. This would be my advice to all first filmmakers, to really work with really amazing actors, because when you don't have too much experience with them, that could be a challenge, and really amazing actors would add so much to your character, and they would really carry it to higher levels. Maybe Burcu can talk about her.
Yes, I would love that, because I watched the film and then I went through and did research, and I thought, and my big question was, how many local actors did you might have cast? Like what we say sometimes in the United States is like not professional actors, but maybe non-actors, meaning that's not their primary job. And because I was curious, and then I went through, and your cast, they're all, you know, major, you know, actors with major credits in Turkey and abroad. And so let's talk about how Burcu came on board.
Sen filme nasıl dahil oldun? O süreci anlatır mısın? Neler yaptın hazırlık aşaması?
Ha, oyuncu olarak.
She will talk in Turkish and I will translate.
Perfect.
Oyuncu koçu olarak da.
Oyuncu olarak nasıl dahil oldum? Zaten bölgeye gidip bölgedeki halkı inceledim. Böyle bir şey açıklayabiliriz. Çevireceksen. Sonrasında o diğer oyuncularla metin üzerinde uzun uzun çalışmalar yaptık.
Do you understand Turkish? So she's my best friend. So she's always with me. She's my major support. I'm really thankful to her. She's one of the lead actors. She's the sister of Ayşe in the film, but she was also coaching the actors. She was also coaching everybody. She was in the casting process. So she came to the region with me. We really looked for, you know, local actors, and we did a lot of audition with them. And so she was always with me in the process.
Oh, beautiful. So that's another thing. How did you rehearse prior to shooting? Do you like to rehearse? Like, what was the rehearsal process like for this project?
For almost 2-3 weeks, we did rehearsals. We did reading rehearsals, you know, and in that process, we spent a lot of time with the actors. Like, we spent 2 weeks, and Meryem was always there, of course, because she's in every scene, and Burcu was always there because she knows the whole project 360 degrees. So she was always with us, and we talked a lot about it. And it was a very emotional process in which we really felt like, before even going to the region, we are really walking around the atmosphere of the film. We really, I mean, the energy of the location. We did the rehearsal in Istanbul, but we started the energy coming to us months before. And Meryem, one of the speeches she made, she really made me happy, because she's a big star. She is, you know, one of the top stars in Turkey and Middle East and in Balkans. She was in this magnificent century, Game of Thrones of Turkey, and yet it's the first time she's acting in a small film like this. And a lot of people were very surprised that she was in this film, because she's kind of a commercial figure, and that's why I was intimidated by her introduction to the film, because I didn't know how comfortable she would be. She's a star. Our conditions aren't, you know, so high standard. We'll be in a village, and so on and so forth. And she was just so modest and so positive. And you know what she said? She said that I don't care if anybody sees this film or not. this film is such a big school for me. I'm learning so much, and I'm going into such deep, profound levels in my soul that I don't care if nobody sees this film. We were really living the moment. We were really taking lessons from each moment, preparation, rehearsal, talking about it. And we really felt like every moment was a miracle because we felt we were really connected to these vibes of nature, vibes of, mountains and animals. And I don't know. I mean, we all of us, the major people in the crew, we all felt very spiritually connected. And it was a very magical set crew, in some ways. It's really hard to describe.
Well, I noticed in the cinematography, which I said was gorgeous, and I noticed in the blocking, I thought what was really so well done was the staging of it. It felt like you were truly using the terrain. I thought the cinematography kind of evoked this feeling of ascension, that we were in the mountains. And then there was times where it was very still and very quiet. And there was one scene with Miriam that I loved, and and I thought that the camera placement, the way it was staged, it was simple and beautiful. And she had no dialogue, but she was sitting on the porch. She was around the corner while the ladies were speaking about her, and just sitting there. And it was such a beautiful shot, and it was so interesting to me. So what I want to ask you is, you spent so much time in the region, you were familiar with it. Did you find the blocking and the staging on set, or did you have kind of a shot list, storyboards? How did you approach shooting with nature? Because I felt it was very cohesive.
I wish I did storyboards. I didn't have any storyboards. And you know what? I had some bad luck with the DOP because my DOP left the film, left the set 2 days before it started. I had some craziness. I'm sorry, guys. I have to explain it. The DOP, he had some personal problems. We did scouting with him. I mean, I'm not talking about the DOP Sardar, but the other DOP, the guy we did scouting with. We planned all our shots and everything. He had some personal problems, and he left the set 2 days before we actually started, maybe 1.5 days. I didn't have any DOP 1 day before my set. Can you imagine?
Well, seeing the film, I'm shocked because that did not read at all to me. Matter of fact, I was like, oh my goodness, the cinematography is gorgeous. They've come up with these beautiful shots. And we're going to go back. I want to talk about the bear because it links with this one shot. I love the shot at night. We're in the car. The camera's in the placement. You're in the POV of a passenger. And you just left the camera still. And we're watching, I say, right? Miriam's character hunt down the bear, literally, with the gun. And we can't see her. She kind of goes out of frame. We can hear the bear. It's at night. And I thought that was so creative because it really built in the tension. And so let's talk about how you shot that scene and then segue into how did you deal with the bear? Did you have an animal wrangler? All of those things. Because we talked a little bit about the bees.
Yeah, I mean, the way I imagined that scene was exactly the way I shot right from the beginning. I never wanted to go close to the bear. I never want to go close to Ayşe, holding the gun towards the bear. I always wanted this scene to be off camera. I always wanted this violence to be off camera because I love the way the off-camera sound design, the atmospheric sounds creates tension and curiosity. You wonder what's happening there. It's far away and the camera is left in the car. I mean, you're kind of bringing an awareness about the existence of the camera, which is okay for me. And I love the way this builds in the film is a leitmotif, the way the sound of the bear, we hear the sound of the bear, We see the bear, but not very clearly. So it creates more tension, I think, not to see the bear very clearly, but to hear her screams, her crying, because that was very important for me. I mean, a lot of people commented about her, the way she screamed. I find it haunting because she screamed. The real woman who told me the story told me the bear screamed like a child, like a human, and she was very haunted by this. And I want the screams to be haunting. So I really wanted to put emphasis on the sound in that scene rather than the image. That's why it was shot like that. It was always planned to be like that, meant to be like that. So I'm so glad you asked that.
Yeah, and let's talk about now the bear on camera and how you got those shots, because I'm sure, I mean, oof, that's my big fear, to run into a bear like that. Oh my goodness.
Well, I actually don't like to talk about this too much. My little secrets with the bears. But maybe I can talk about the baby bear.
Of course, let's talk about the baby bear.
Because the other ones, it will be giving away my little secrets.
I don't want you to give away any secrets. Just let's talk a little, then we'll talk a little bit about what's the baby bear? Is it anchovy and...
Yeah, the baby bear, yeah.
Anchovy, and what's the other name?
Anchovy and I forgot, hamsiyle şeyin neydi? Hamsiyle fındık. Fındığın İngilizcesi neydi? Peanut, I think.
Peanut.
I'm not so sorry. I'm a bit confused about the translation at the moment, but the real name of the baby bear is Tolga. That's his real name. And he was a few months old. We met him in the bee shelter, and all these baby bears, when they lose their mothers, they are, in the wild nature, and when the nature preservationists finds them, they bring them to the shelter, and they are a bit traumatized because they are motherless, and the baby bears are very dependent on the mothers. So he was a very cute bear. I loved him so much, Tolga. I even hold the baby bear, and it was a tricky scene where we need to see the baby bear coming in between the hives. That's the final scene of the film. That's quite a spoiler, but that was also a scene which was just like that since the beginning in the script, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to shoot it, because shooting a baby bear to tell him to go to the hives obviously isn't that obvious.
Right.
But strangely, he did exactly what he was meant to do. I'm really surprised, so I mean, we did some, of course, we put some honey, we put some stuff for him to attract him towards the hives, but every time he seemed like he knew exactly what he was supposed to do. I was really surprised, so that's it with the baby bear. And the other ones, as I said, we were shooting with different bears, and okay, I'm not gonna talk about this much in too much detail.
All right, so I think we'll talk a little bit before. Are we going to open this up to a Q&A, to chat, or are we going to continue to talk?
So we can do a little Q&A if we have questions. Yeah, we have questions from the audience. We're happy to do a Q&A.
All right, perfect. So we'll open that up to Q&A, let's say after this question, maybe one or two more questions. So I want to go back talking about the relationships between the sisters. And I really thought, and this is a scene, right? No spoilers, but it's a scene before the last scene with Miriam and the little bear, the little cub, the baby bear. There's a really beautiful scene with Burcu where she brings her sister back. She calls her. and the whole family goes running up the hill. And both the sisters, in that moment, to me, it was almost like there was a reconciliation between the family, between themselves and nature, and this past and present. So can you speak from the acting point of view how you develop the sister relationship, since it is integral to the story?
Bu final sahnesinden önceki sahnede işte Kova'nın oğul verdiği sahnede geri döndüğün ve işte orada kız kardeşini çağırdığın sahnede tekrar aileyle bağ kuruyor, işte doğayla bağ kuruyor. Orada ne hissettin ve kız kardeşlik ilişkisinde nasıl çalıştın? Belki o hani doğaçlamalar yapmıştık ya böyle çocuk gibi kız çocukları, belki onlardan bahsedersin.
Yani zaten onlardan sen çevireceksin yani söylediğim değil mi? Yani ilk başta uzun süre prova yaptığımızda zaten Meryem'le böyle bir iletişimin içerisine girdik. Zaten aynı binada yaşıyorduk o süreçte de. O yüzden çok yakın bir kız kardeşlik ilişkimiz vardı. Bu arada ben de iki kız kardeşiz biz de. Abla çocuk diyelim. Onu
Okay, I'm going to translate. In the village, we stayed in a house because there were no hotels in the village. We stayed in a little apartment, and Meryem was upstairs. Burcu was next to me, so we were always together. We were very close. But she also has one sister, so she's also two sisters, and I'm also two sisters.
Ve Meryem de two sisters.
And Meryem is also two sisters.
Onun için kız kardeşlik ilişkisini çok iyi biliyorduk zaten ve iki aynı cinsten insan olunca bir tanesi daha arka planda kalabiliyor her zaman.
When the brothers or sisters are like two brothers or two sisters, then one of them could be in the shadow of the other one. That's very often. So we know this dynamic. I mean, I know this dynamic. She knows it. Meryem knows it.
Bir de abla olarak babası da olmayan bir evde büyük bir sorumluluk almış ve kardeşini anne gibi sorumluluğunu almış ve onu okumaya göndermiş. Böyle bir durum da var.
And there is no father in the family. The father passed away, so she takes the responsibility of the father, and she's the older sister, and she takes a lot of responsibilities. Her younger sister goes away to study, and so she's there to take care of the house.
Bunun içinde hem büyük bir sorumluluk içerisinde bir abla. Hem biraz anaç, temel olarak bu kadınla ilgili çalışırken anne duygusu üzerine çalıştım. Çünkü hem kendi çocuğu var, kız kardeşine de bir anne gibi muhafaza ediyor.
She worked when she's working for the character. She worked on the emotion of being a mother because she's a mother and she acts like a mother to her sister. And the motherhood theme in the film is a recurrent theme, like comes across with the bears, the bees, and it's a strong suggestion with the mother.
Ve zaten en ürktüğü şey de Mine karakterinin en ürktüğü şey de o bütünün bozulması, ailenin bozulması ve zaten arılar içerisinde de başka soydan bir arının getirildiğini ifade eden ilk kişi de o. Ve bundan rahatsızlık duyduğunu söyleyen o ailedeki ilk kişi o. O yüzden anne olmak, ana olmak, bir arada olmak, aile olmak onun için çok önemli.
Because she's the one who is kind of representing the tradition, the local character. She's the one who gets more agitated by the fact that Ayşe brings foreign bee because for her she's more into the tradition. So she represents being more down to earth, maternal, and being local and more traditional. And o şeyden bahsedebilirsin. Küçük çocukluk anılarınıza döndünüz ya. Hani böyle birbirinin saçını çekiyordunuz.
Biz Meryem'le provalardan. Bir ön prova öncesinde de Meryem'le o kadar bir arada olduk ki o sürede artık prova yaparken bir çocukluğumuza mı dönelim? Bunlar çocukken nasıl kavga ediyordular bu ikili? Abla kardeş ilişkisi nasıldı? Birlikte nasıl yiyorlardı, nasıl içiyorlardı? Ve hatta Eylem bizim bir fotoğrafımızı çekti. Böyle iki tane kız çocuğu duruyoruz yan yana. Böyle bir fotoğraf. Bir de gönderdik.
When we are doing rehearsals, I wanted them to, I mean, we did some exercises, for example, and they were like little kids, little girls. I said, imagine that you're, 5 years old, 8 years old, and imagine you're fighting, playing like little girls. So they were acting like little girls. They taught to remind them of their childhood, together, shared childhood. They were like pulling their hair and playing, and I took their photos of little girls, and because I did these games with my sister. I know the sister games, so we did a lot of sisterhood games.
I think it really showed because you touched on, there was this theme of motherhood. You saw that with Chestnut. You saw it in Mother Nature. There's multi-generations. You had this really beautiful theme, which I don't know if I'm reading into it, so you'll have to correct me, of choice. All the characters were making a choice. There was this idea of the choices we make and the choices such as fate, like nature, that impose their will upon us, and then we have to adjust as humans. And this idea of the bees must choose their keeper. You don't get to choose your family, they say in life. And I thought the family, how it reconciled, and then this idea of the bees, that they chose Miriam's character, that there was this, she had a path forward. And I felt like there was, so can you talk a little bit about that, this idea of choice and free will versus Mother Nature and fate?
You ask such great questions, Kiki.
Mm.
I really love your questions. You go into such depth. I appreciate it a lot. I'm always thinking about this. Like even today, I was thinking, in life, we shouldn't be dependent on the consequences of our, our goals. Of course, we are all chasing our dreams. We are all chasing our purposes. There are a lot of things we want to realize, but we should be dependent on them because life is filled with uncertainties and you can never be sure of what will happen tomorrow, the next day. There are a lot of things we cannot control, although we would love to believe we can control. And this year 2020 really showed us that a lot of things are out of our control. So what we need to do, what did you do? Everything was cancelled. The world was cancelled. You needed to sort of surrender to the process, to go with the flow and really appreciate each moment of your life and really enjoy the ride, really enjoy your path. Because when you look at nature, nature is filled with birth, death and rebirth. When you look at seasons, you see that there are all these cycles in nature. But as humans, human beings, it's very difficult for us to accept separation or death or, to lose, to deal with loss. So I always see this with myself. I mean, when I feel life, I see that, and I wanted this to come across through my character. She goes through these phases. As city people, we like to design a lot of things. We want to plan our life. I mean, our whole daily routine is filled with trying to plan. Today we are doing something according to plan. Tomorrow we have a plan. But a lot of things could come and intervene our plans, like COVID-19, so this year, I mean, I learned so much from this process, from COVID, that okay, I plan something, it might happen or it might not happen, but it's okay if it happens or if it doesn't happen. I'm just gonna go with the flow and enjoy the ride and appreciate every moment, and I just try to be true to myself. So this is what the journey of Ayşe. She tries to control her life, the bees, the bears, this and that, but she realizes that it's in vain. You know, Mother Nature has her own plans. And then she realizes, okay, I have to just take lessons, and now I have to realize that, okay, I make choices, but sometimes nature makes her own choices as well. So yeah, I love the sentence, the bee chooses the beekeeper, because that reverses our position in nature. We are not that important, you know, for nature. We are just you know, some good, smart creatures, but we are not the center of universe.
Right. Well, I think that you made a beautiful film. Thank you for your work and sharing it with us. And should we take some questions from the audience? We have about 15 minutes left. So
Yes.
Ingrid, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Kiki and Eylem, Burcu, for this beautiful conversation. As Eylem said, very in depth, and that's why I chose Kiki. She's perfect for that. Thank you again. We have a lot of questions from our audience members, so we love that. Let's go to this question. What life lessons did you learn from making this film?
Mm-hmm. What life lessons? Okay, I love this. Because filmmaking, a lot of times the audience asks us, which one is more difficult, filmmaking or beekeeping? What do you think? And you know, beekeeping, we say, Mariam says sometimes, you know, it's more important, it's more difficult. But what I learned from filmmaking, and what I would say to potential filmmakers, is it's just so difficult. It's just so difficult, and in each step you face with one more difficulty, and you just learn to face with them, and it just makes you grow so much. I mean, I grew so much making this film, because from trying to finance the film, trying to raise money for it, to convince people to come on board, to convince, you know, to find, as I said, you know, the DOP just left the set one day before we started, but another DOP came. So what I learned most, and I believe, I hope, I truly learned, is actually kind of the answer to the other question I just answered, is you just sometimes, I mean, difficult is good, because it makes you so strong. What doesn't kill makes me stronger is really true. You really feel you become quite strong, you know, in this process, because it's a pleasure. It's really a unique kind of pleasure to face with the challenges, and say, yeah, I can do this. I'll do this, you know. I'll convince people to finance my film, because I have something true. There's something I believe in, which is meaningful, which is gonna add beauty to people's lives. And you know, you receive a lot of rejections, cancellations, and you know, all kinds of things happen, but it's like climbing mountains, one mountain after the other, but it makes you really strong, and it gives you a very meaningful purpose. Filmmaking is about meaning. It's not about happiness, you know. There are a lot of moments you are happy, but there are a lot of moments you are not happy. There are a lot of moments you're sad, a lot of moments you're angry, stressed, excited, and anxious, but meaningful. You know, each one of them is meaningful, and it's a very deep meaning that I'm so grateful. The director of Madrid Film Festival in Madrid was saying, when you make a film, you put your body and your soul into the film. That's so true, you know. The film carries your body and soul. But when you meet with the audience who watch the film in the movie theater, you also put your body and your soul in the movie theater. So that when comments come from about your film, just like Kiki did or the audience did, and they tell you how they are touched, it adds so much to you. It's just such a big happiness that you communicate with other people in such a deep level that no money can buy, you know.
Thank you. Can you tell us more about the music composer of the film?
Emir, I love him. He's a very close friend of mine, and I actually called him today. Please come and join the Q&A. But he was doing a TV program today. We worked with him for 1 year. He has a band. They do salsa Latin covers of Turkish songs. He's very talented. He's a great musician, and I wasn't very sure about him in the beginning because he does more commercial music, in more popular music, I mean, but he really came across with amazing music, and he was very patient with me because I wasn't very easy with the musician, you know. I'm very demanding, and some musicians might get defensive about that, but he was just so patient, and he worked so hard, and he did so many revisions to come up with what he came up, and I'm so happy with him. He's great, Emir Ersoy.
Thank you. We have another question. What was the most difficult scene to shoot for you?
En zor sahnemiz hangisiydi çekilmesi en zor?
Arıların
Arıların
elini tuttuğu ve
bence yağma sahnesi.
yağmadı, evet, ikisi de.
Well, okay, one of them was Ahmet throwing the bees. He had all these bees in his hand, and in that scene 5 bees stung his hand, and yet he's like, I said, okay, let's stop, but he was like, no, I want to go on. He really, and he was allergic to bees, but he kind of enjoyed it in an actor, like crazy actor kind of way, you know. He's like, he really connected with the bees, and he wanted to feel it, and his hand was swollen, and yet he didn't stop, and he kept doing it. That was very difficult. And also the scene where the bees are killing each other, you know, that was a very difficult scene. Yeah, it was very difficult. Dead bees. We had dead bees, thousands of dead bees. That was difficult.
That makes me think of actor studio style shooting, method acting. Yes,
Yeah.
actors, yes, go for it, go for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Very New York style. Okay, let's see what other questions we have from our audience members. What was your favorite scene to shoot or to watch from the film, from your film?
My favorite film, I don't know.
No, what was the most favorite scene you shot, and also the one that you prefer to watch when you completed the film?
Ya aslında şeyi seviyoruz biz. Arılar içime girdi. Ahmet beni kurtar.
Yeah. We love the scene, you know, the white shot. I say we because we talk a lot together about the film, and sometimes we laugh at some scenes. We are like, some scenes we remember the way we make them. So in the theater we look at each other and laugh at those. I love the scene, the first scene where he's in the hive. She puts her costume, and we film through her point of view. And Ahmet says, don't be scared, it will be all right. And she's so scared. And then in the white shot, the extreme white shot, we see her, he's opening the hive, and the bee comes and stings her, and she's freaking out. And I love that scene. It's a long shot. I liked it very much. There are a lot of scenes that I like. I don't know. I have to think about it. Good question. Sorry, I'll think about it. And please write to me. Remind me after whoever is asking that question. I'll answer separately.
Okay. Do you think people will get closer to nature after watching Hive?
Absolutely, Ingrid, because in each screening, somebody comes to me and say, I want to be a beekeeper after watching this film. I hear that a lot, and I'm really surprised. I'm like, it shows how difficult it is. I mean, you see, she has a very hard life. Like, why do you want to be a beekeeper? But yet, a lot of people say, I really want to do beekeeping after this film. And yeah, I hear a lot of people, they want to go back to nature after watching this film. And for example, I was in Zurich screening in Switzerland last week, and it was a beautiful screening, and there are a lot of Turks there, as well as Swiss people who live in Switzerland. And they told me they were so moved because it also addresses to diasporic people in diaspora. And they said, you really encouraged us to go back to our homeland and to go back to nature, because we were like, when you're in diaspora, you're in between. You don't belong to that place, but you don't belong to your homeland in a way. You do, but you don't in a way. It's difficult. You're in between. So they said, we really felt encouraged to go back to our homeland. And I'm so happy to hear that.
We have some questions on Facebook, so I'm going to go to Facebook for a few minutes. And you touched on this a little about the fundraising that was difficult. And this person's asking, so it's not indie unless someone quits days before shooting starts. That's not a question, but that's a comment. And it's being your first film. How hard was it to raise funds for the budget? Did you do any crowdfunding?
No, I didn't do any crowdfunding, but yeah, it was not easy because it was my first film. I made many documentaries, but I wasn't a well-known director. And in Turkey, we have the Ministry of Culture, which is the main source. So I had that secured. The Ministry of Culture really loved the idea, and they gave let's say 30-40% of the budget. But that wasn't enough. I needed a lot more. And I remember I had a very anxious winter, winter of 2018, 2 years ago. I was like really freaking out, waking up in the middle of the night, emailing people that I haven't seen several years, asking if they could sponsor my film, and had very hard time. I mean, I had a lot of anxiety for a few months. And still, this is also very emotional because I said, okay, this is not me. I'm not this person with a lot of anxiety. I cannot approach this with this level of anxiety. I really need to calm down, I need to calm down to make this film. Things will just be okay. Everything's be okay. And so I just calmed down myself just like that. And some kind of power came within me. And within days after feeling this sense of calmness, the Turkish public channel just miraculously said they wanted to come on board. I went to make an appointment with them to go and convince them for my project. And just when I entered the room, they said, we are supporting your project. And I said, how come? I'm here to convince you. And they said, no, we are convinced already. We want to support. And so I had already quite, secured my project. And then there's a rock star friend of mine who's leading a big movement in Turkey, helping people. He helped out as well, Levent. He was one of our sponsors. And then I learned to knock doors and ask a lot of people, not crowdfunding one, but small sponsors from here, from there, for accommodation, for car, this and that. So I really felt that people wanted to be in this film. A lot of people wanted to be a part of Hive because they were excited about the energy. I guess that's mother nature, and then it was smooth, and I had a lot of supporters, and there's still people coming and supporting and wanted to be part of it. I'm still getting sponsors for this film. Just recently, a propolis company sponsored our screenings and gave gifts and did some support. It's really nice, you know. Okay.
Everything's okay.
Yeah, I think I'm just yeah, everything's okay.
Okay. So looking at the time here, and we're actually out of time for today, but it was so lovely to hear you both talk about the film. And is there anything else you would like to say to our audience members or share with us today?
Well, of course, I mean, for me, it's just been so lovely to be with you. And as I said, thank you so much for finding our film worthy of your opening film. I'm so surprised. I actually want to ask you why you chose Hive. I'm sure there are a lot of more beautiful other films. I'm just so honored. I mean, I'm speechless to be the opening film of Chelsea, and I'm so glad I met you, and I feel so loved by you. I mean, the fact that you love Hive and you are so enthusiastic about its message and its story just makes me so happy, and I feel like I find a family with you and all the people who ask the question. That's really a nice way of connecting together through the film, and especially in the strange pandemic times where we are, you know, it's like almost midnight in Turkey and afternoon in New York and Texas, and we are all together. It's really strange and wild and amazing, you know. I'm really happy. And thank you so much, Ingrid and Kiki, and all the team of Chelsea Film Festival. I really hope that I am at the festival every year. I know I know I can't, but and you have Turkish films every year. I mean, whatever I can do, I feel like I'm really I find a family with you. You know.
Thank you. You are part of the family now. We do call it a family actually, because you're people, you know, and that's why we love doing what we do. You share a very meaningful story and trying to make the world a better place through your film. This is the mission of the festival as well. And when you enter your film at a festival like ours, we do believe you're a part of the family. So welcome. And actually, Sonia chose the film, so I want to give credit to her because she does a lot of research, and every year we do have Turkish films at the festival. We love Turkish.
Thank you so much, Sonia.
Thank you.
She's one of the curators. So thank you again to all our audience members for coming and joining us today. A very big thank you to our moderator and advisory board member, Kiki Lambden-Stout, for joining us from Austin, Texas. We will see her again tonight for the opening ceremony with our jury members. So please join us. It's at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, New York time, and Google has the wonderful ways to actually find the time in your country. So if you type in the name of your country and put time, you should be able to find the exact time because now we live in such a we have such a wide audience that we're receiving so many emails saying, what time is it in my country? What time is it in my country? Yeah, but we're happy about that. This is the beautiful thing, because today we had Colombia, Argentina, so many Mexico as well. So a lot of Latin American friends that are participating. Thank you again to Eylem, Kaftan, and Burcu Salihoglu. I hope I can pronounce it okay.
We love New York, all the members and crew and the team of Chelsea Film Festival, Kiki, Ingrid, Sonia. Thank you so much, and please take care and enjoy the rest of the festival.
Thank you again to all of you. Kiki, you want to say a few words?
Yes. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your beautiful work. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, Ingrid, for putting this on, and the Chelsea Film Festival, the crews, the volunteers that make all of this happen. And of course, the audience who has tuned in from all over the world in different time zones. We thank you. And, you know, without the spectators to share these beautiful films with, the film festival wouldn't be here. So thank you all for your support, and I'm really excited to see you in a few hours on the red carpet.
Absolutely. And also, if you haven't seen the film, if you want to watch it again, please watch it on Film Festival Plus. It's available during the 4-day film festival. So have a great festival. Enjoy the films. We have 130 films from 18 countries this year. Thank you all for joining. Bye now.
Thank you for the great work. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.